When my grandmother died, she left me a house I had never seen. Not in Kiev, where she had lived for the last 20 years. Not in Lviv, where she studied as a girl, but in a village called Chornozirka. I had never heard of it. The notary slid the yellow deed across the desk and avoided my eyes. There is land, he said quietly, and a house. You are the last of the line. That phrase stayed with me. The last of the line. The train to Polissian groaned like something alive. It cut through endless forests of pine and birch, through marshland where the fog did not lift even at noon. Chornozirka was not marked on most maps. When I arrived, there was no station platform, only a wooden sign, tilted, half swallowed by moss. The air smelled wet, old, like something that had been buried and was waiting. There were only 9 houses in the village. 8 were abandoned. The 9th belonged to an old woman who watched me from behind lace curtains as I walked past. My grandmother's house stood at the very edge of the marsh. It leaned slightly, like it was tired. The door opened before I touched it. Inside, everything was clean. No dust, no decay. A candle burned on the table, and on the wall above it, carved into wood. The marsh does not take. It keeps. I did not sleep that first night, because sometime after midnight, something knocked from beneath the floor. It was not loud, just 3 slow knocks. Then silence. I told myself it was wood expanding, old beams shifting, but then I heard it. Water. Not rain. Not wind. Water moving where there should be no water. The marsh was 50 meters from the house, yet I heard footsteps sloshing beneath me, circling, waiting. At 3:17 a.m., something whispered my name. Not loudly, not from outside, from under the floorboards. I froze. The voice was not threatening. It sounded familiar, like someone calling from a dream you once had as a child. I did not answer. That was the first rule my grandmother ever taught me. If the marsh speaks, she once said when I was small, you do not respond. It does not forget voices. I had thought it was a fairy tale. In the morning, I found wet footprints on the kitchen floor. Bare, small, like a child's, leading from the door to the trapdoor in the center of the room. I had not noticed the trapdoor before. It had no handle, only scratches, as if someone had tried to claw their way out. The old woman from the neighboring house finally spoke to me on my 3rd day. She did not greet me. She simply said, "You opened it." I didn't open anything. She stared at the house behind me. The house opens when blood returns. Her name was Helena. She had lived in Chornozirka her entire life. Why did everyone leave? I asked. She smiled without humor. They didn't. That night, the fog rolled in thick as wool. I dreamed of the marsh. In the dream, the water was black and perfectly still, until lights began to glow beneath the surface. Dozens, hundreds, like stars trapped underwater. And I understood. They were not lights. They were eyes. When I woke, the candle on the table had burned down to nothing, but the room was not dark. A red glow pulsed faintly through the cracks in the floorboards. Something beneath the house was awake. Helena finally told me the story. Long ago, before the Soviets, before the wars, there was a ritual. Every generation, one member of certain families stayed behind. They were called keepers. Not priests. Not witches. Keepers. They did not protect the village from the marsh. They protected the marsh from the village. Because something ancient lived beneath it. Not a demon. Not a spirit. Something older than names. It did not hunt. It did not chase. It waited. And it collected. Memories. Voices. Regret. Those who wandered too close did not drown. They were kept. Their bodies were never found. But sometimes, on quiet nights, their voices returned. Calling. Asking to be remembered. Your grandmother was the last keeper, Helena said. And now you are. I opened it on the 7th night. I do not know why. Perhaps because the whispering had become constant. Perhaps because I was tired of pretending I did not hear it. The trapdoor lifted easily. Beneath it, water. Black. Still. Impossible. The marsh was outside. Yet here it was. Beneath my house. And from its surface, faces began to rise. Not fully. Just impressions. Like memories pressing against glass. And then I saw her. My grandmother. Young. Not as I remembered her. She smiled gently. You came back, she said. Her voice was not sound. It was pressure inside my head. I never left, she continued. And suddenly I understood. The keepers did not guard the marsh. They fed it. Not with blood. With memory. With presence. With themselves. My grandmother had not died. She had stepped down. into the water, and the marsh had kept her. You can leave, she told me, but it will follow. The marsh does not need walls. It does not need land. It needs lineage. If you refuse, she said softly, it will grow hungry. The whispering intensified. The water beneath the house trembled. The eyes returned. Hundreds. Watching. Waiting. I felt something pulling at my thoughts. Memories slipping. Childhood fading at the edges. It was already taking. Or keeping. I stepped closer to the water. It reflected not my face, but the village as it once was. Alive. Children running. Laughter. Sunlight. And then war. Fire. Screams. Loss. All of it swallowed. Not erased. Preserved. The marsh was not evil. It was grief. Given form. I stepped into the water. It was not cold. It was not wet. It felt like falling into a memory. Voices surrounded me. Not screaming. Whispering. Names. Stories. Regrets never spoken aloud. And at the center, silence. A vast, endless silence. I understood then. The marsh does not take. It keeps what the world discards. Pain. Loneliness. Forgotten lives. Someone had to stay. Someone had to remember. Or else it would spill over. Into everything. I saw my grandmother beside me. You are not trapped, she said. You are anchored. The house above began to sink. The 9th house of Chornozirka slowly disappeared into fog. And the village faded from maps once more. Years later, travelers sometimes pass through Polissian. They speak of a place not marked on GPS. A fog that does not move. And sometimes, they hear knocking. Soft. From beneath their feet. If you ever walk near a marsh in northern Ukraine, and you hear your name whispered, do not answer. Because the marsh does not take. It keeps. And it remembers who you are. Even if you have forgotten yourself.